Hi, welcome to another video. Today I'm walking a part of the Kent coastal path. So let's put up a map. It's a 9-mile walk which will take me from Western Heights in Dover. From there I'll walk under the A20 and then follow the North Downs way from Shakespeare Cliff and over Abbot's Cliff, which overlooks Samphire Hoe. And I'll be walking past some old military buildings which are dotted along the coastal path and served as part of our island defences. I'll be walking past the Abbot's Cliff Sound Mirror and then into Caple-Le-Ferne, where I plan to look at the Battle of Britain Memorial. And from there I'll follow the path down past some more military outlooks posts before arriving at the Warren, which has some hidden foundations of an old Roman fort and the first of two Martello towers, which were used again for the defences from the potential invasion from the Napoleonic Wars. So really quite an interesting walk. Let's cross over. Finally, I'm hoping that I'll reach Folkestone harbour arm, where I'll certainly enjoy a nice coffee and maybe an ice cream. So I think it's this road up here. I've got to start way up on the cliff. I don't know if you can see it up there. We're going to start here at St Martin's Battery and Deep Shelter. Now, St Martin's Battery was first built in 1876 to provide protection. Look at these old buildings. It was built to provide protection to Dover from the expected French invasion. Look at these old buildings. It was first outfitted with 3 10-inch rifle-muzzled rifle loaders. Wow, look at that. But it was closed in 1909. Follow my nose here. But it was reopened as an emergency coastal battery, which was then modified and renamed to the Western Heights Battery. It was then fitted with 3 6-inch breech-mounted guns, hence the modifications. I mean, you can see this, it's very, very much World War II, isn't it? Look at the view of the castle, isn't that amazing? And the sea looks green. You can't really see France today because it's just so hazy. Got a pillbox here. I'll put a link to my pillbox video at the top there. If this was a watch-out centre, have a look in here. Who doesn't love a pillbox? We shall defend our island. Look at that, you can see Dover Castle. Step back down. See if we can see the entrance to the Victorian shaft. So had there been an invasion from, you know, aircraft during World War II, Battle of Britain, that kind of thing, the 140 personnel could be moved into here, which is the Victorian magazine. Can't really see anything in there. It's the Victorian magazine, but it also acted as a shelter for the personnel. Fascinating. Okay, when I say Knights Templar Church, you mustn't get your hopes up. The foundations of this small medieval chapel stand on the Western Heights, overlooking the town, and it has been linked to the Knights Templar, which of course was a military religious order in the 12th century. Let's go and stand here, get a good view of this. It may well have been just a shrine for, you know, passing pilgrims and the knights, just to pay homage to God. 1100s. And it's still there, albeit just the foundations. So we're going to carry on down here. This is the North Downs way now. Or is this it? I think that's a road to a private drive, so I have to walk down many, many hills. In fact, I'm going to be walking up and down and up and down today. I really feel I shouldn't have mowed the lawn, which takes me a good hour and a half where I live, but let's have a look at this. So I am, where am I? Fort Redoubt. We were just here and we've walked to the Templar chapel. So we'll follow this road down, we'll cut through the housing estate and go under the underpass there and then up to Shakespeare Cliff. Tell you what, it's been very easily accessible coming from the Western Heights, following the little yellow arrow for the marker that says North Downs Way, but then you come down under the A20 and follow just the path. It's so accessible, obviously not if you're in a mobility scooter or a wheelchair, but if you've got your legs about you and you can walk, you can do that. But then you get to this point in the edge of Shakespeare Cliff, which is just up there. They've got this fencing, and for good reason. It's just sheer drops on the other side. So by keeping us all on this side of the fence, so you come through there and then got one more hill to climb. Yeah, I've got up and down, but I think once I reach the top of Shakespeare Cliff here, it's kind of level all the way down to Folkestone and actually drops down into Folkestone. So I'm doing the most part of the climbing now. I am at the top of Shakespeare Cliff. There's a lot of people walking this route today, but would you look at all those trucks? Now, didn't the guy at the Port of Dover say, we're not going to have the same fiasco that we had when we were at Easter? It's now half-term weekend. Kids are all off, people are travelling. But of course, admittedly, you can see the cars are driving, but I don't quite know what's happening with the trucks. So obviously something happening at the ferries. Anyway, that's my view ahead. I've got to get over the next little hill, then climb up that big hill up there, which takes us up to Samphire Hoe, and you can see Folkestone in the distance. So I think I've got probably another 6 miles to walk. Let's soldier on. Okay, we've reached Samphire Hoe. We've got some majestic cliffs. Where did I just come from? Shakespeare Cliff, around that end. This is reclaimed land, but the coast used to come right down the edge here, and there was a village of fishermen. In the 80s, this site was deemed the most suitable of the 60 proposed locations to dump the chalk from the actual Channel Tunnel excavations, which began in 1988. So this 30 hectare makes up the park totally from the reclaimed chalk from the sea, and they built the artificial wall all the way around. Of course, the tunnel was completed in 1994 and opened by the Queen and the French President François Mitterrand. And the park down here opened to the public in 1997. So Samphire Hoe is kind of the location of a cooling station for both sides of the Channel Tunnel. So I guess they're drawing air somehow from the Channel Tunnel or pushing air into it. Clever stuff. Just down here, you can see the cliff is all white, but this bit here is brown. And there was footage, I think, because chaps fish from down the edge there, and this guy caught the erosion, and if I can find the clip, you'll get it here. But yeah, Samphire Hoe, built from the reclaimed chalk from the Channel Tunnel, is now a nature reserve and it's a very pleasant place to walk around actually. Right, where am I going next? I want to get to the top of this hill, but I want to stick to the national footpath. Okay, we're back on the England Coast Path National Trail. How to get past the horses. Do you think they'll be friendly? Let's see. Hi, pony. They might bite and they might nip. Very lovely. Did you want to say hello? Did you? Yeah. Right, I must conserve battery power. Let's get to the top of the hill. As I get onto Abbot's Cliff, we come to Hougham Battery, and this was World War II coastal defence battery built in 1941 between Folkestone and Dover. Now it's on the edge of Abbot's Cliff and Shakespeare Cliff all the way through here. A lot of the buildings and the huts and everything like that are now underneath the ground, but all the way along this part, should we go inside and have a look? They built these observation posts, so not really a gun emplacement, but they could certainly, I guess the ground would have been level, or they'd have been tall guys. But yeah, you can look out right over to the coast, oncoming aircraft. But there's very little that remains of the battery now, so you still have a lot of these outlook posts, and they're too high structures, but they've been doing some excavation work here. Look, all this brickwork. Now what do you wonder serves the purpose of taking out all the earthwork? Are they going to turn them into private homes or something? Or is it part of the heritage trail that they're actually just restoring the things? Let's go through here. I don't know what this is. I've never really worked it out. I'm walking through the thick grass here. Gonna get bitten by a snake, because we do have snakes here. It's a rather fascinating structure. Now we've got clearly a man-made earth mound. Now is that from the 70s? Is that from when they cleared the A20 and they constructed that? It looks like some kind of dike or a military wall from the Roman Empire. But what on earth is this? I can't see that it would serve any purpose other than target practice, maybe, with the chaps with their guns. Obviously there was something here that they could sit down on, because there's a bit of wood. So were they sitting all the way down there and then in here shooting their rifles, pointing their guns out at the bank, targets, you know, that kind of thing. It's a strange structure, concrete posts, but no entrances, no doors at all. What on earth does it serve its purpose? Yeah, bizarre. Right, let's go and have a look at this gun emplacement. Now it can't be a tunnel. It might be a smoke tunnel from the railway going underneath. Maybe I just have got my facts wrong. Do drop me a comment. Is there an entrance? No, it's clearly a tunnel because there's no entrance. A shaft, that's what we should call it. Can I stand up here and have a look on top? Yeah, look. I was mistaken. I thought it was a gun emplacement, but it's clearly just an exhaust or ventilation shaft coming from under the cliffs. Okay, nearly done. This large square piece of concrete with a centre hole scooped out of it looks like a modern sculpture, right? But there's nothing nearby to tell you who the artist was or any information to read. So without a clue to what it's for, it towers over us mysteriously like something from a Stanley Kubrick film, right? A monolith. It is in fact the Abbot's Cliff sound mirror, which is a remnant of a dead-end technology, which can, along with other sound mirrors, be found dotted along the whole of the British coast, and it was built in 1928. Now, the sound mirrors were designed to provide early warning of approaching enemy aircraft from across the channel there, by detecting the sound of the engine over long distances. Now, this 20-foot mirror was built as part of a mirrors bracket by the Acoustic Research Station at Hythe. Now, the mirror was used up till 1930s, but was replaced by radar technology. This mirror appears in Bombing the Channel Ports, which was a 1940 watercolour by the artist Eric Revilius. Now, what they used to do, they would have a microphone placed on kind of a structure situated parallel with the centre of the scoop, and it would detect the sound of aircraft at least 20 miles across the channel. So pretty much like the Death Star, where you've got like the beams coming out to a central point. Don't want to reference the Death Star, right? But it's surprising. It's echo. If you've ever stood in one of those walled gardens, which are semicircular, and someone stands in front of you and talks, and you hear the sound, it's like a stereo thing. It's wonderful. However, the advent of radar meant that it was a dead-end technology. Great for its time, but yeah. End of the road for the sound mirrors. Who'd live in a house like this? Certainly I would like to. Look at the views. Oh, there's a train. Choo-choo. Who doesn't love watching a train, right? Oh, soldiering on, soldiering on. Phew, I made it. It's a heck of a walk, this, 9 miles. So I'm finally at the Battle of Britain Memorial, opened by the Queen Mother in 1993. Now it's a memorial to the flight crews from the Battle of Britain, so that's all nations that fought from the Commonwealth, so the Canadians, the Australians, certainly the Polish, because they were allies. It's got the shape of a big propeller in the middle here, with a sculpture of a pilot in the middle. We've got replica Spitfire and Hurricane over here, and we'll go and take a look at the memorial wall. Let's walk down the hill. That centerpiece in the middle is a museum. It's the Wings Museum, and what I'll do, I'll overlay a Google Earth image of this whole place. I can't give you drone footage, but at least it gives you an overview of kind of what the actual place looks like. It's certainly a place to come for contemplation and think about what the sacrifices that these people made for us. So this is the sculpture, and there was talk about making this a recognised man on the hill statue. I think they're talking in terms of like the Old Man of Wilmington, is it? And the white horses. But I don't see it myself. It's just a statue. You know, it's a memory to all those who gave their lives during the Battle of Britain. So it was only a short battle. Was it from May to September? Let's see if we get the information here. 3,000 names. I think it's a fitting epitaph, really, because you wouldn't know who they were, but you can come along and walk here and actually read every name, every one of these. It doesn't actually, I'm not sure if it says these were all in the battle, some died, some didn't, or whether these were all the casualties. So we've got Air Chief Marshal Lord Dowding. He was in command, wasn't he? And Air Chief Marshal Sir Keith Park, was he the guy? I wonder if he was the guy in the Battle of Britain film that always used to arrive in white overalls in a Hawker Hurricane. So yeah, the Battle of Britain Memorial actually shuts at 4, so I didn't time that right because I can't go inside now, so you'll have to come here and do the trip yourself. Right, I'm heading down the Warren, get onto where the Roman villa was, and we'll catch up there. I'll tell you what, I feel defeated. This has been a trek and a half, but we come down from the Warren. We've got Martello. I always want to call it a Martello Tower. It's Martello Tower. That is Martello Tower number 1. And so the first in a line of defence Martello Towers is going to be a video in its own right. I'm going to have to do a video on Martello Towers. But built for the Napoleonic Wars as a defence strategy for the coast of Kent. And actually around all of, not only Britain, but also in locations around the world. Just looks like I'm going to get run over. But we come down onto the Warren, and there's an interesting bit of information here, because this whole area here was where there was a Roman villa. We'll have a look at this plaque, see what we can get from it. The first Roman villa was built around 1,900 years ago. The second villa built about 100 years later, and it may have been built by the British fleet, the Classis Britannica. How about that, to provide food and supplies to the military. So you are here. And where was the villa? Reconstruction of the Roman villa based on archaeological excavations. The villa was first excavated in 1923-4, and the site is still being explored today by the Canterbury Archaeology Trust. So yeah, this whole place on the Warren was a Roman villa, and then they covered it up to preserve it. So I'm standing on the remains of a Roman villa. So you've got Martello Tower number 1, and then up ahead is Martello Tower number 2. And I think we need to walk over there just to check it out. I don't want to show you me trekking all the way along this bit of a walk, but that would be boring. I did some footage back there. Can't believe that you can see Dover in the distance just there. 9 miles. There's Shakespeare Cliff just jutting up. I was up there and all the way along. Ooh, what a lovely walk. I'm nearly done. So Martello Tower number 1, private residence, sitting up there across this kind of golf course here. Martello Tower number 3. I don't know what happened to Martello Tower number 1. No, number 2. Because you've got 1 and 3. Maybe they only do odds like on the British roads. So the entrance would have been up through the stairs onto the first floor. These were constructed to house 24 military personnel and 1 officer. This particular one had a cannon on the top which could fire out 1 mile out to sea. Now this is in a poor state, this Martello Tower, and I think there's talk of having it renovated and becoming a tourist attraction, because Folkestone is becoming the centre for arts. It's a creative quarter is down there, and it's kind of reinventing itself. rejuvenating the place. So Martello Tower number 3, definitely a video to create in its own right, to have Martello Towers. So 74 constructed between Folkestone and Seaford in East Sussex. Right, that's the end goal. Folkestone, here we come. It's been a lovely, lovely walk. Finally made it down to Folkestone. What a trek. Thanks for bearing with me. We'll take a walk through the old station in a minute. It is and always has been a fishing town, but in Henry VIII's time it was commissioned as a viable port for trade, etc., across to Europe. But then it was subsequently ditched. But over time it grew. They built the railway, so they've got this lovely swivel bridge, railway bridge, for want of a better word. I don't think it actually swivels anymore, but the train line used to come all the way down through the buildings there and into the station. Now, the station was dilapidated up until 2003, I believe it was, and they decided to start work on renovating it, and in 2013 it opened as part of the creative arts for Folkestone. You can see there's a funky statue in the middle there, but this just looks glorious. So obviously they've still got the railway tracks, a couple of sleepers there, and on a Sunday you'll have market stalls all the way down here, and it's become a central hub for attracting visitors. It's not that it's a historical, like a castle or anything, but it's just a nice kind of hub. You've got eateries, restaurants. We're going to have a look at a few of them along the harbour arm in a second. Now you have to think about World War I, because the trains would bring all the troops all the way down here, and they would offload all the troops onto old steamers and take them from there, which we'll have a look at in a minute, over to France. And when they disembarked off the train, got onto the steamers, this would be the last they would see of old England. So many lives lost in that First World War. But as you can see, it's fine. Lots of eateries. If you saw my photography on the harbour arm, another link up here. I walked around and took pictures. If you look here, in there they have Sunday markets, and there's more eateries there. It's just packed solid, isn't it? So here's the original station all the way down here, and I think I'll superimpose some old pictures of the boats with the troops and everything. Such a sombre thought. But what we've got here, and it's kind of interesting, in the 70s, maybe the 60s, but 70s and 80s, they built a roll-on, roll-off ramp for the ferries. There was a ferry from here to France, and it was a regular service. So you've got all these concrete posts that are still remnant here, but you've got the roll-on, roll-off. So it was a viable ferry port as well, hence the fact that we've got the Grand Bursting. Is that it behind me? Oh, it's over there, Grand Bursting. Because if you're taking a ferry from Folkestone to France, then you're going to perhaps arrive a day early, so you end up staying at the Grand Bursting. It's seen better days, and now it's completely transformed. It serves as a venue for entertainments. We're going to have live bands performing round about there. You've got the big Greek bus. She sells seashells, and a lovely old lighthouse and French little bistro at the end there. But you'll forgive me for not walking all the way down there. Having just walked from Dover, it's supposed to be 9 miles, but when it's zigzagging through the countryside, I have a funny feeling it's a little longer than 9 miles. So I'll have to look at my steps on my phone to see how many I've done by the time I eventually get back to Folkestone Central Station, which is up there somewhere. So I will put how many steps I've walked today there. How about that? That's like exercise, isn't it? And you will most likely see me in another video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. Bye for now.